phrase used, about having to surrender to win. Many people say surrender, that means defeat, But for me, I pray every morning, I pray every evening, and I surrender to my God every single day, twice a day, because I want to win in that day, It's a just for a day program that I work in my life, yeah? So every single day in my life is a miracle, yeah? And for everybody else as well, For me, the 12 steps, it gives me peace, it gets me to look at my life, where I've had problems and, resentments around people, or the 12 steps isn't just for people in recovery with drug addictions, alcohol problems. It's there for people who've got any kind of trauma in their life. And by working the 12-step program, it lets us deal with our past. There's a saying again in recovery, we have one foot in the past, one in the future. And while we've got one in either, we're not moving forward, we're trapped through guilt and shame generally. So, that's what the 12 steps gives me. I'll start a little bit about from where I was as a child, I came up in a decent upbringing, never wanted for nothing, always got pretty much what I wanted. But, with an addict tendency, I was always wanting more and more and more. And when I never got it, I stamped and I stropped like a child. Well, I was a child, but extremely. To the point of where I'd make my point and get what I want. But if I still never got what I wanted, because of my thinking as a child, as an addict, I'm 44 now, I've been in addiction for 35 years. And it wasn't until I did the 12 steps that I changed, and I think it started to change. And, I remember having thoughts as a child of wanting to commit suicide just because I would get what I wanted. Always wanting more and more and more. And for me, at 9, 10-year-old when I started drinking, that's not a normal kind of thought process for anybody to go through, looking at what I've done from doing my 12-step work. My dad was a functioning alcoholic. He worked offshore on oil rigs. And my mum, she was an equestrian, she used to train racehorses for a living. Decent family upbringing. For me as a child, I always had to be the best at everything that I did. And if I didn't be the best, I'd just beat myself up over it, and I'd try again, just to get to be that best person that I can. And why is that? That's because I wanted validation. I wanted to be accepted into people, into society. And that's addicts. We crave that. We want that love. We want that attention. And we don't deal well with our thoughts. Hence the reason why we tend to use substances, alcohol, to push down those feelings of rejection, desperation, and I'm just grateful today, that I don't have to live like that anymore. I'll move forward slightly. It's a little bit about my childhood. I'll go back and I'll say where I am actually. Stay where I am. It's stuff I need to get out to talk to people about, because, what? I have God. God doesn't judge me. You guys don't judge me, so what? Why not get it out, tell people, Traumas I suffered as a child, my dad beat me, strangled me, beat my mother, I witnessed all that. And as a child, not by a family member though, I was sexually abused as a child. So you've got all those traumas there and all that guilt and all that shame because you've got no one to talk to. And I've carried that throughout my life, with that guilt, not having an outlet. And I'm not saying that men are the worst or women are the best, but men, I find, generally speaking, have too much pride to be able to talk about what's happened to them in their childhood. I just hope that by speaking about this now, that someone can get that identification from that and have the courage to be able to change things that they can,
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is not my first time in recovery. I've been in recovery before. I was in Halifax, and I was in a relationship for 23 years, married for 17 years, tried for years for a child, but that relationship, I was never happy in that relationship, ever, really. I was too scared of losing the beautiful house, the nice cars, the materialistic things that don't really matter.
Yeah.
We eventually had a child anyway. I've got a boy now, he's nearly 17, and I love him to bits. But with my addiction, I'd always been very rebellious. I'd never listened to what my ex-wife said to me. I'd always do the opposite. The more she moaned at me, the more I'd do the opposite. And it's no wonder, I'd go out for days and days and days. To even sleep rough, and I've got a beautiful house. At the time, I'd sleep in bushes, turn my phone off, so I could phone the dealer, and make sure I had enough battery on my phone to do so. It's no way to live at all. And like I said, I was kind of pushed into real the first time. And I walked the walk and I talked the talk. But I wasn't ready. I hadn't surrendered then. I have now. Just for today. And yeah, I managed to get 8 months clean the first time round, and then white-knuckled it for the best part of 5 months. I moved to the West Midlands near Wolverhampton, got into a relationship. And there's all those yets in addiction. I always said I'd never touch cocaine. I touched cocaine when I got married at 24. Thought I was happy, but I wasn't, obviously. I always said I'd never touch crack cocaine, but I did. I always said I'd never touch heroin. I haven't yet. But the point of the fact is that, the more and more I was in crack houses or wherever, those people, more and more people smoking heroin or injecting it around me. My then girlfriend, she had a massive box of prescribed medication, Oromorph, Tramadol, Pre-Dose. And if I'd been smoking for days and days or whatever, I'd start taking all these opiates, to come down, smoking weed, drinking alcohol. Never really passed out in the end. With crack cocaine, I won't say what I think to it, but it's very expensive because it only lasts for a minute or so, and I've never been in so much trouble in my last relapse, which was 9 months, that I was in and out of police cells, 4 or 5 times. I was almost that close to going to prison. I almost went to prison for benefit fraud, from housing benefits. But when I moved back from the West Midlands, I went to my mum's, and it was a freezing cold night in January last year. And I manipulated my mother to death. She says, I don't want you here, I don't want you here. And I begged and I promised her that I would not do anything while I was there. She said, better not drink or take drugs under my roof. If you are, you're gone. I spent 3 weeks there, and she said to me, I've really enjoyed having you with me, Stuart. It's been nice to have somebody with me. And then I've not quite got over that relationship with the girl from West Midlands, and I was kind of mourning her, I guess. And I was constantly obsessing about what I've got or what she'd be doing, or is she with somebody else, and that's how my addict brain works. Don't think about anybody else, I think about myself because I'm selfish and self-centered. 2 days later, I went into Pontefract, it's a local town near where my mum lives, looking to try and put an application for a house with the council. Took the application, and I got this voice in my head on the way to Pontefract. Said, you can have a drink today. You're all right. You can have a drink today. And I played it out in my head. You can't. It's like that all the way for about 10 minutes on the bus. So I went into the council, put the phone there, walked out of there, had X amount of pints, straight out of the pub, over the road, to an homeless guy, can you get some crack? I was gone for 2 days, which in hindsight isn't quite a long relapse for people like me. But I got back to my mum's with my tail between my legs and she went, there you go, I'm not doing no more for you. That was last year, and I was homeless, you know. I tried to get into a place in Castle called Reflections, but they were busy. And because of all the problems with the council and whatnot, with taking money and not spending it on what should have been, I was struggling with those as well. And because I've served in the British Army, the Royal British Legion put me up for 11 nights in hotels. But whilst going backwards and forwards to the council, they were saying, well, you're not homeless because you've got the roof over your head. And I was like, what? So then I had to physically, after 11 days, make myself homeless. And that's at the point where I had this struggle because the property that I was supposed to be renting in Huddersfield, that was on my housing benefit claim, that's no address. And that's when the benefit fraud thing came out, you know. So, yeah, after 11 days in the hotels, I went to a place called St George's Crypt, a homeless shelter in Leeds. And I managed to get what they call a 9-9 bed. You go in at 9 o'clock, you get kicked out at 9 a.m. And then it wasn't until a few days later that I bumped into a friend of mine called Mark from Halifax. And he was actually volunteering there as well. And Mark that day worked his 12-step on me. I was wanting to go back to meetings, I was wanting to connect. Do you know something? St George's Crypt is a beautiful place because when I was in that hotel by myself, it was like hell. Trust me, with my head, it was like hell. As soon as I got that connection with people, I felt instantly better. But yeah, Mark took me to my first ever Narcotics Anonymous meeting. And then, from showing my willingness, I went to more and more meetings. And then I finally got into a place that's owned by St George's Crypt called Roy Rooms. It's classed as a 12-step fellowship treatment centre, residential based. I've now been there, like I say, well, I complete on the 21st of this month. And then the next part of my journey starts, you know. I've just been accepted into another property, owned again by the Crypt in Kirkstall.
Yeah.
Whilst I keep bidding on properties for Leeds City Council, I keep myself connected I do, in the fellowship that I'm in, Narcotics Anonymous, we have suggested 4 things, you know, step work service, meetings, recovery, that kind of thing, you know, and sponsorship. And there's a big saying as well, you know, the opposite to addiction is connection. And that's why I connect every single morning and say thank you every night to God.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a 24-hour programme, a 24-hour window where we can try and better our lives. Thing is with addicts, you know, and this is from my own experience, we can forget so quickly about the pain, about the homelessness, about the abuse, you know. And as soon as we lose that connection with God, as soon as we lose that connection with our higher power, our sponsor, our fellows, we're cream crackered. Yeah? We are, trust me, that's my own experience. I don't know how much longer I've got left, Andrew, but I'm going to quickly touch on step 9, because that's where I am now. And I was writing out parts of my step 9 the other day, and you can't get, I don't believe, any other kind of freedom than working a 12-step program. The things that you see, the things you identify with, things that you've carried around in your life, like burden, guilt, shame. My niece died maybe 20 years ago. She was 20 years old. No, let me get this right. It's about 15 years ago. I've been 35 or something like that now. She died from cervical cancer, and she was like my daughter. She was like my daughter. She was beautiful inside and out, I never got over that. I never got to see her or say goodbye to her. And, I used on that for a long, long time. She wasn't even my daughter. I said some nasty, horrible things, to my sister. I tried to make amends the first time, but I didn't keep my amends. What I've learned from step work, especially the 9th step, is that how many times did we say sorry in active addiction and not mean it? Yeah? What we've got to do is we've got to deepen our surrender in step 9, and we've got to live a living amends. We've got to mean what we say today. Because what's the point of all this work if we're just going to say sorry and not mean what we say? We've got to better ourselves so people can believe that we are getting better. Yeah. The amends isn't for us, it's for them. Right. It's keeping our side of the street clean. Yeah. When I said about the amount of freedom you get from working step work, that story I just spoke about my niece there, up until that point, which was a few days ago, I'd not really accepted her death. And I literally wrote like 2 or 3 sides of A4 around that. And the amount of times that word acceptance came up in those pieces of paper, it gave me growth, it gave me acceptance. I know I can move on now. I know I can make amends to her again. Even though she's not here, I can give her a living amends. I can also do graveside amends. There's lots and lots of different ways that we can make amends to people we've lost, people we love. That's why we have sponsors, because they've got the experience that we haven't got. It says in step 9, we make amends to not cause harm to ourselves or others. Yeah? That's why we have sponsors, to help us make the right choice of how we say sorry. Yeah. Because if I were to go out and do it by myself, I'd probably make a big deal of it. Yeah? I aren't going to waffle on anymore because I haven't got a lot more to say. This is only my second chat that I've done in recovery. I hope you've got something from it, guys.